I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.
There's definitely something strange happening in the state of California. And I'm one of the only people that are going to come on the internet and tell you about them. Right now, there's everyone in California is dying. But remember, we had one of the largest compliance rates throughout the country. See, the beautiful part of the YouTube guidelines is that you're not allowed to give out medical misinformation. Luckily for us, we're 4 years past that. This is not about medical anymore. Now this is about how to mitigate the effects of afterwards. Now we're going to talk about the outcomes and the consequences of letting the television tell you to do with your life. Why everyone trusted the television or trusted some guy named Fauci, who's apparently a doctor, but he doesn't see patients, I don't know. And now all of a sudden, strangely, everybody in California is dying suddenly. And there's a lot of people that are just baffled. But RICO, I was apparently one of the only and the first people to tell you what was going to happen, how it was going to happen, when it was going to happen. And now we're just going to keep score. So this is a person who passed away at Disneyland when they were riding the Haunted Mansion attraction. See, what I like to call these situations are battlefield situations. You're recreating the environment of a battlefield, but inside your body. See, when a human's about to fight, or you're about to go into battle, you're in a really stressful situation where it's going to involve combat, you have adrenaline spikes. Your heart starts racing, perspiration, and you're overly excited, but your heart's pumping. Don't get into those type of situations. If my theory is correct, then this was made for soldiers in battle, but not the soldiers on your team, but the opposing side. See, if you could just, if this was a movie and I was, writing a script and I was like some evil genius and I was trying to figure out how to beat the army that we're going to fight tomorrow, but they're bigger, they're stronger, and there's more of them. How can we fight them and win? It reminds me of the story of Troy and the Trojan horse. To get past the guards and get past the wall and get past the security, you have to be clever. When I look at things like that, well, then, yeah, lockdown makes sense. Mass media manipulation makes sense. Everything finally starts to make sense. And now we just wait. Everyone you're seeing that they're saying is dying suddenly, nowadays, you're not just dying in your sleep. These are people that are dying while they're doing activities, riding roller coasters, working out at the gym, having sex, playing basketball. Relatively young people. This woman was in her 60s, which is still in 2025 not really old. 60s is not old. They're going to try to pay this off as something else. But I know this means that it was safe and it was effective. The problem with you people, you never wanted to ask what was the intended effect. You never asked. It's literally the same scam with Barack Obama. Remember, he screamed around with his black ass lips talking about hope and change? He never told you what to hope for, and he never said what would change. It's a scam. When somebody gets mad when you question them or you ask for details, they're lying. You're in a relationship with someone, you ask to see their phone. Well, who's this person? Show me your history. If there's any issues with that, that person's lying to you. Me, I'm transparent. If there's nothing going on, here goes my phone. You can call this person if that's what you need. Maybe I got a history of cheating. If I'm past that in my life, here you go. We live in a day and age where you think you have all the information, but you do need transparency because information can be manipulated. Right now, the numbers are being manipulated. Everyone I know is being affected by because I'm from California. And also I have Facebook. Facebook is the only way in 2025 that you can keep track of death. You know that? Because everyone's death is announced on Facebook. They're not announced on Instagram, not announced on TikTok or Twitter, not announced on Rumble, but you can see who just died on Facebook and you can look into how did this person die? What happened? I study and I keep track of Facebook. I'm watching. You think this Disneyland person? No. That's just the person you heard about. On my mom's side, I have a cousin. In his family, he lost 9 people in 1 month back in December. 9. There were no alerts on the television. There was no messages going out to the public. No one's sounding the alarm except for me. But the thing is, there really is no point of me sounding the alarm. It's too late if you complied. And I remember back in 2021, oh, my friends, everyone I know had so many goddamn reasons. Oh, I want to go to Mexico. Oh, I want to fly to Hawaii. They gave me all this money, this PPP. I want to go. And I'm like, well, look, if you go to Mexico and you leave the country, they're going to ask you to do something to come back. If you go to Hawaii and you don't want to sit in quarantine, they're going to ask you to do something they're going to ask you something to do something that's illegal what they're asking you to do. That's illegal. If you comply, there's going to be consequences. It's not worth it for some fucking tacos and pineapple juice. Learn to love America. I told everybody, get in the car and drive. You know what I did? Because I was like, I'm not flying out of the country. I'm not doing anything. I went and hung out in Vegas during the lockdown. Everything was dirt cheap. And then when Vegas started saying, hey, if you want to gamble and throw dice, you need to wear a mask, I took my ass to Arizona. And when Governor Doug Ducey's goofy ass locked down Arizona because of all the pressure from the World Economic Forum, I discovered a magical land. East. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this place, but it's an amazing place. It's a marvel of the universe. It was one of the only free and open places on the planet at the time. It's called the great state of Texas. I landed in Houston to celebrate my cousin's birthday. No one there had ever seen a mask. They never heard of a lockdown. They had no idea what I was talking about, and they wanted to know what I wanted to drink. There was live music everywhere. Everything was wide open. But wait, in California, you guys told me for 3.5 years, if everything was wide open, well, everyone would die. It would look like you dropped a can of roach spray in an apartment and you come back 2 days later and then everyone's just laying out. But magically, not the homeless. The homeless were surviving, but the people indoors apparently were dying. But well, how is Skid Row there still? You know, I asked the right questions. I gave people the right advice. I don't know why no one listened. And now everyone is wondering what's going on. I don't know who was here from my audience last night, but you can go watch the video I did. It's on YouTube, WING RICO or The Single Boyfriend, about the collapsing birth rates in California so bad that they are now they are permanently closing maternity wards in hospitals. How about that? Not something you see every day from humans that are in a place like California, land of the whore. Everyone's having sex with everybody. But now the amount of sex people having hasn't changed. But now there's not enough children being born where a maternity ward is even necessary in these cities and in these hospitals. They're laying off entire maternity staff. Why? But you don't notice that there's something wrong. You think I'm still just conspiratorial. You didn't read the documents I read to everybody online that got me kicked off the internet from the World Economic Forum, their depopulation agenda. You know that's all a part of Epstein's research too, right? The Fauci ouchie, the vax, that's all Epstein's research. That's why they're not releasing the Epstein files, is because those are also the COVID files. You didn't know that, did you? So that's why we're not going to release them. We can't. Not now. Now, come 2030, once it's run its course and the selected people who were targeted for depopulation are for the most part gone, well, then they can be released because, well, then who's going to be left to complain? There's not going to be any riots. There's not going to be any protests. So they're not here anymore. So we only got a few more years, and then you guys will find out what the research was about. The problem is this, though. It's all eventually going to lead to Trump, unfortunately, because they're going to try to tie him in with warp speed. It wasn't created under warp speed. That was just how it was introduced. They had already been around for years. Matter of fact, they were around in 2010 when they tried to push the whole swine flu thing. They had all these waiting, billions of them. The exact date that they were created, we don't know. Who synthesized them, we don't know. We don't know what's really in them. We don't know who designed what's in there. All we know is that the technology is beyond our current means of production. What was in those vials is something that humans of today, us right now, we could not reproduce. We can't even understand it. When they look at it under a microscope, those things that you pulled into a drive-through and you let them inject you, we don't know what it is. We have no clue. We don't know how it works. All we know is that there's something appears to be self-replicating and alive. And it was microscopic and it grew. Dr. Carrie Madej, Dr. Frank, there's doctors in different parts of the country. The only one in the United States, Carrie Madej, her plane crashed a couple of days after she initially divulged this. Luckily, her family survived, and we have not seen her publicly since. But everyone wants to ask me, well, Rico, what's going on? What do you think? What do you think's happening? I said, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. I mean, I know, but what good is it going to be to tell you? No, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this for content, and I'm just going to keep score, and we're going to just talk about it together because we're friends, right? We're friends. Everything that they tell you is safe and effective is safe and effective. Believe it. Everything is safe and effective. It just depends on who's it's safe for and what was the intended effect. But let's see if we can listen to the clues of this person who passed away at Disneyland yesterday.
A woman in her 60s died after riding Disneyland's Haunted Mansion on Monday evening in Anaheim, California. Anaheim police said she became unresponsive around 6:30 p.m., and Disneyland security performed CPR until paramedics arrived. She was transported to a local hospital where she was pronounced dead. Officials indicated the incident appeared to be a medical episode with no issues reported with the ride, which reopened shortly afterward, Fox News has reported. The Orange County Sheriff Coroner will determine the official cause of death.
And that was determined today. It was determined that that was a heart attack. Now, let's talk about this man right here, also in California. My condolences to the family of Kevin Rodriguez Zavala, 32, who tragically died after being found unresponsive following a ride at the Stardust Racer at Epic Universe on Wednesday. So what they're saying, They're saying he had blunt impacts, but him alone, nobody else. When I say battlefield conditions, I mean you're scared, you're nervous, you're in shock, you're panicking, your body only internally, not outside, internally what you're going to be going through. That's going to trigger something if you comply. It was designed for people on the opposite side of the battlefield from you. Imagine if you were about to go into a gunfight and just the anticipation alone and the fear of your opposing team, just the fear alone of going into the fight before it starts, half of them just fall over. Do you know how much of an amazing weapon that would be on the battlefield? A lot of the research for this came from DARPA. You guys didn't read any of, this stuff was like public, right? Like they didn't hide any of it. All of this stuff was literally, you could read about it. There were videos on it. Not a lot of videos, but you could read. None of this stuff was a secret. What we're seeing now is it's being applied to the public. So you're going to see a lot of this going forward. Again, they're not telling you about the people that are dying playing basketball or the people that are dying at the gym working out or how Kevin Samuels died having sex. They're not going to tell you that there's a specific xenotype that this was designed for, and the closer you are to the xenotype, the more effective this is going to be for you. They're not telling you that. I'm telling you that. So that's why I'm asking you just to be sure to like and subscribe, share the video. I wasn't even planning on making this video. It's just that I was doing a report on Letitia James, and someone sent this to me, and I was like, another one? Shocking. And it's not the ride. It's supposed to be scary. But you weren't supposed to do that other thing. According to Fox News, the Anaheim Police Department confirmed the incident to the media outlet, saying it happened on Monday, October the 6th. Anaheim Fire and Rescue went to the Disneyland Resort for an unresponsive woman in her 60s who had just finished riding the Haunted Mansion attraction. Nothing else will be disclosed out of respect for the family. An unfortunate medical episode, the same thing they said about my friends. When I used to live in California in 2022, I was still going back for work. I remember one day there was something that opened. They found a way to get around the lockdown orders, and they just opened anyway because all the businesses were suffering. People were like, you know what? I'd rather just get fined and have the fire marshal shut me down. So I remember a place on Crenshaw I went to called the District. I believe it was the District. And I was there. I hadn't been there ever. And some friends of mine were there, and they were like, "Oh, Rico, what's up?" And I was like, "What are you? You guys don't even know each other." And I'm seeing all these different people that I know. They were all there for about 4 different funeral after parties. People have what's it like a reception? It's like after the funeral, recession or whatever it's called. And I was like, wait a minute, you guys are all here for funeral? And I'm looking around, all black men. All of them just dropped suddenly within a 2-week span of each other, just dropping like flies. The crazy part is nobody was questioning anything. Nobody was none the wiser. Everybody's just, and then that's when I realized, a lot of you are really are sheep. You really are sheeple. A lot of you really are NPCs. Like you're here, but you're not here. You don't have an inward dialogue. You don't think. You don't talk. You don't talk to yourself to process information and have reasoning. You're just alive. You're not dense where you're going to just walk. If it's a red light, you're going to just walk out in the street and get hit by a bus. You're functional in that capacity. But as far as anything deeper than that, you're really going to have a hard time because you're not there. So a lot of us don't understand people like you. And for all I know, the reason they gave us these microphones and they let us upload stuff to YouTube for free is because they're trying to filter us out from the rest of you. Those of us who are coherent, those of us who are conscious. They want to know who's here and who's not. See, the sheep are easy to control, the sheep are easy to run. The problem is with the powers that be is that they find themselves in a battle for influence over the sheeple, but they're fighting against other sheep, people that they think they're sheeple, but they're actually people who are influential. So you got this person telling you don't do it, but you got the television and the government telling you to do it. And what if the regular person who's not in government, you do what he tells you? Well, they need to find out who those people are, who has that kind of power, but you can't just look at someone and tell. So you have to filter them out. Maybe that's what we're doing. Maybe that's what's happening right now. Maybe that's what's going on. I think Charlie might have been someone like myself, a thinker, someone who could talk, someone who could influence masses. And now they just gave over his platform, his audience. They just gave it over to people who were going in the opposite direction of him. I saved who I could in 2021 and 2020. I did the best I could. I saved as many of my friends and family members as I can. There are people that still come to me to this day and say thank you. When I make these videos, it's not like for millions of people to watch. If they watch, they watch. People share, they share. I really just make these videos for a handful of my friends who this was the difference between life and death when they didn't know what to do. When everything was confusing and everything was scary, I was the voice of reason. I wish I could have saved more. This lady who passed is not the only one who died that day. She's not the only one dying today. There's a lot more where that came from. I'm from California, so I'm keeping score. Yeah. They determined the cause of death on Wednesday, and it was a heart attack. Just like all the others, just like LeBron James' son, just like Jamie, just like all the rest, just like everybody else. Same thing. Whether you're 32, 18, 62, it's all the same. It's going to be the same. Well, on to the next topic. I'll be back on live in a few minutes. If you can, no more flying on airplanes. Stay away from the gym. Start taking estrogen if you're a man. Apparently, the clotting starts after you're on a long flight, and when you land, after a few days, it'll travel from your legs to your lungs, and then you're gone. We're noticing that with a lot of people that have been taking flights for more than 2 hours once they land. So that's why my advice is don't fly. Also, it affects women at a slower rate. As far as we can tell, it's testosterone reactive. So if you're taking estrogen pills, it should buy you more time. Not foolproof, but it theoretically that should work. And if you're anyone who's working out a lot, anyone who's at the gym, anyone who's training, you're pumping your oxygen into your blood, heart's racing, adrenaline, you're usually taking testosterone injections, all of that is a no-no right now. Until we can figure out at further notice what to do to, I don't know, I don't think we can filter it out, but we're going to need more answers. But the key is you need more time, right? You want to buy more time. That's my advice on how to extend your time. I had a friend of mine who used to fight with me about Trump and all this stuff a couple years ago. And he said to me, Rico, you were right. He's now having his different organs in his body removed for different reasons now. He has a lot of issues. And this is like one of the healthiest, in shape guys I knew. But he was breaking every rule I just gave. So don't, if you cannot be that guy, don't be that guy. But remember, everything's safe and effective. Trust the TV, okay? Don't listen to Rico. Listen to the TV. The TV knows best, okay? Like and subscribe, share the video, Wing RICO, the single boyfriend. I'll be back shortly with another video about the one and only Mrs. Letitia James. Hit one of these.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.